Hello. 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 Hi, Moira. I am just, I got a stiff spot. Like, you ever do the thing? If you can do it just right, you crick, crick, crick. I'm trying to get my neck to go crick, 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 but that's okay. How you doing? I am just settling in. Hi, Barb. Right, that's not going to show up right. Oh, hello, Moira. I think it's just the three of us right now, but that's okay. That's weird. That's weird. Okay. Okay. So, how are you guys? Yeah, sometimes it goes great, sometimes not so much. It's like, hi, Carolina Panther. Another person in. Yeah, I was supposed to go like this and don't try too hard. I'll get the little ones out of the way. Edgar Cayce is like so cool. So. I'm trying to figure out where to put my camera. Just a sec. Is that the right spot? No. Oh, really? Just a sec. Okay. Okay. Yes, thank God it's Friday. Don't get too much vertigo there, guys. I gotta fix my camera. No, you go. Yeah, you go that way. Whee! Did I do it right that time? There we go. That's about right. A tiny bit higher. Look at that. Now it's too low. Yeah, I just took an existing photo. I am here to soak in the info. Okay, well, I am just farting around. I don't have to get up and blow my nose every 4 seconds today. Did the mental math and realized we are so far into spring that yeah. Usually I just get up, go give my nose a quick little blow, wash my hands, do whatever. It's a good excuse to get up every 30 minutes or so, right? But we also realize the reason why it's more not annoying. The reason why I'm getting like the rain nose thing happening on when I'm going live is because when you're talking, all that vibration starts breaking shit up. Isn't that fun? What's going on? That's what right. Yeah, it's the allergies. It's like I don't know how to describe it. I overthink the freaking camera every time. Okay. Yeah, basically this is like allergy season here because over here on the West Coast, but we're looking at the West Coast, like we're already well into spring. We have had like we've got flowers, we've got things already flowering here that the rest of Canada isn't going to see flowering for another 3 or 4 months. So it's just that kind of an environment over here. So yeah. So that's what's going on. And I'm really pissed about that because after going through it with COVID, I thought I was gonna get a break. Yeah, the wet coast. I thought I was gonna get a break on this shit. Mm-mm-mm. No, it's like, oh, it's not. Yeah, so we went to the being sick, to having the after effects of being sick, straight to this, no fucking break. I am so whiny about that. Oh my god, I usually find something to whine about, so that's good. I feel like I feel like I feel like if I don't do this just right, come on. If I don't do this just right, if I start to slouch, my chin's going to go. I tend to slouch. So it's like if I start slouching, my chin's going to go off the bottom of the camera. If I sit up straight, I'm fine. But that's okay. I think Lisa is going live tomorrow, isn't she? Near Ottawa. Shockingly. Oh, garlic and tulips are coming up. Yeah. Yeah, I think we've already got the tulips. I think we've already got all that. Is Lisa going live? I'm ratting my wife out. Is Lisa going live tomorrow? Is she going live tomorrow? Tomorrow at 11 a.m. You might want to ask her about, not that side. You might want to ask her about that. And you might want to ask her why she has a matching one. And we weren't even doing anything. We weren't even doing anything. It was like, she's giving me a kiss goodnight. And I'm like, okay. So I dive in, right? It's like, ha ha ha, got you. And then she did it back. But she said she's going to cover it up with makeup, and I want her ratted out. So it's like, we were not even doing anything dirty. You should be proud of this one. But no, I got nipped. Well, I deserved it because it's just a very stereotypical kiss night, and we both happened to be standing, walking down the hall. And I got her, and then she did it back. So I deserved it. It was more, yeah. It was not. It wasn't anything fun. It was more. It was more revenge. I have a revenge. I deserved it. But yeah, just rat her out. It's like, hey, Lisa, might want to touch up that makeup on your neck. Just okay. I guess it depends on how serious her live is. I know she's going live. I didn't even. I'm so out of the loop. It's like, but anyway, Susan's entropy apothecary. Oh, the unicorn cloth. I've got. We got a couple. We're still giving it a minute to see if people are going to filter in. I got 3 of these going up. Peacocks. And I got some little wildlife stuff. I'm trying to get, now I have to do this. I have to do this right. Hi, Sarah. Yeah, I have to do it right, because if I once it's ironed, you don't want it to fold. The bigger cloths, yeah. Lisa's queen of makeup. She can easily disguise a little hickey. Oh yeah, she'll disguise it. That's why I want you guys to know it's there. I just needed to rat her out. I have been threatening to rat her out every time, this isn't the first time she's gone on with a hickey and had it covered up. And it's like, usually she's like, behave, be nice. And it's like, me? Anyway, so today we are talking about Edgar Cayce. I'm just going to flip over to Wikipedia right quick. Yes, exactly. Be the rats. Be my posse. Oh. Somebody else. Just a second. There. But yeah, rat her out, don't rat her out, or at least enjoy knowing that you guys know something. But anyway, so Edgar Cayce was born March 18th, 1877, passed away January 3rd, 1945. So we're talking like Edgar Cayce, this was somebody, thanks, Barb. This was somebody from before World War II. Like, he died in the last year of World War II. This is a very, very long time ago. Thing about him, I was born in Kentucky. He's okay. This is okay. I'm not going to look at this because I'm only going to I will be going back and forth digging up pictures for you guys. Yeah, those little badges with pride. Well, that's not even what was going on. This was more like I was just being a jerk and she was getting revenge. He's still pretty current considering, and the thing is that a lot of his he predicted things during his lifetime, doing his readings and stuff like that during his lifetime, and then during the course of doing his readings made a lot of predictions. So let's just back up a little bit. Let's see if I can stay on track. Okay, this guy has got so much going on, so much that you could really literally talk about him for a couple of hours. I could literally make a 6-month series every week talking about just this guy. Yeah, medical intuitive talents, but still pretty good. Okay, so basically we need to remember a few things about Edgar Cayce. He was born in 1877 in the United States, in Kentucky. This is really, really important because the thing is don't forget, we can talk about religion as our modern day thing. That when we talk about religion, we are looking at it from our modern day lens to not be a good Christian back in the day. And I don't know how they would have identified good Christian. He was brought up in the church. He was brought up very religious, and he read the Bible once. He read through the Bible once for every year of his life. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. If I am going to get in trouble with my wife, okay. So this. I don't know. I'm calling this a stutter now, where I'll just get stuck on a word for a minute and I don't care anyway. So this he was raised. His parents were religious. He was raised in a religious environment. We're talking 1877 in Kentucky, 1877 to 1945. You are not going to, for the entire course of this man's life, you are not going to find alternate. You There was some faddish stuff happening in the 30s in certain areas. A man from Kentucky who lived in where did he? Virginia Beach, Virginia. So a man that's living in an area like this, he's not going to come into contact. Yeah, he wrote about crystals and herbs, and okay, so this is what makes his story so okay. Personal. This is what makes his story so utterly fascinating, is because you've got this person who has got no connection. He's never heard of anything outside of his, and not never heard. It's not to say that he was an ignorant, because he wasn't. He was educated, but he was educated to the very specific standard of the Christian society in which he was raised. Okay, and this is what matters. He may have heard about some stuff. He may have heard about some stuff and read about some stuff. Oh, look what they're doing in the big city. But the stuff that he was talking about, when it came to like Egypt, Atlantis, reincarnation, all of this stuff, Akashic records, when it came to all of this stuff, 99% of it he would never have even had the opportunity to learn about, beyond maybe a word that he saw popping up in the local newspaper one day, with almost no um, reference, with nothing to compare it with. Yeah, no medical knowledge, no higher education. He was educated, but by the standards of his time, it was nowhere near. Like we're talking, like maybe it says, I've got the Wikipedia article up right now. Yeah, okay. So his first encounter. Well, let's see if I can do this. I'm not seeing anything on his education, early life education. The information is there. I just don't want you guys waiting for hours and hours and hours for me to look it up. But like, what was yeah, left high school to work on the farm, and high school, like getting to high school in the 1800s. Like, so he's leaving high school around 1900, where just the ability to do basic reading and writing is considered a very successful education, especially if you're in a more rural community, which is where he was. Okay, that's what matters. I'm gonna try not to harp on it, but when it comes to, it's kind of like that. Who was that person? It's yeah, like grade eight, somewhere between grade eight, and that's considered highly educated. And we're not talking a life where he can learn about computers, doesn't have access to, penmanship was important so that you could write legibly, because typewriters were not common. This sort of thing. Like, so we're talking about an education that we would still look at today and go, that's not a very good education. This matters because of his lack of education and the huge range of things that he talked about. This does not even remotely match the level of education that he had. So he had a few experiences when he was younger. And don't forget, his society. Hi, Kaz. The society that he was from, reading the Bible, being able to read the Bible without help was considered a major intellectual achievement, right? So a lot of schools, the only book you had to learn from would be a Bible. And I don't know how limited his education would or wouldn't have been, but it wouldn't have been much by our standards. It's not much of an education, okay? So he had several things happen that when he was young. He says that when he was in 1889, he was around 10 or somewhere between 10 and 12 years old. Um, he encountered a woman with wings who told him that his prayers had been answered. The woman asked him what he wanted most of all, and he told his biographer. This is something he's self-reporting years later, that he was frightened, but told the woman that he wanted to help others, especially children. Now, yeah, so basically, the next night, after a complaint from his teacher that he would generally found it difficult to focus on his lessons, his father tested him on spelling and angrily knocked Cayce out of his chair. Like, um, he heard the woman with wings tell him that if he went to sleep, they could help him. He put his head on his spelling book and fell asleep. When his father returned to the room and woke him up, he knew all of the answers and repeated anything in the book. So basically, he's self-reporting. Yeah, he was very religious and he was very freaked out by his talent. This is something that worried him for the rest of his life. His entire life, he he was scared to death. Not scared, but for his entire life, he was really worried about where his talents were coming from and what the hell was going on with this. And the main reason why he continued doing it was because he was able to help people. So that's the main thing. So where we're getting now, and I'm trying to get through the basics, get the good stuff. Okay. So he is self-reporting shit that's happening when he was younger, right? Now, when he was younger, so during a school ball game, he was struck in the coccyx. Isn't that here? Where's the coccyx? Oh, the tailbone. Okay, he began to act strangely. While asleep, he diagnosed his ailment and recommended a cure. His family prepared the cure according to his instructions, and it worked. His reported ability to diagnose in his sleep did not return for several years, which is kind of, now, when people are talking about, yeah, so it's kind of interesting because when people talk about this sort of stuff, usually people that self-report having these sorts of experiences usually report sporadic things throughout their childhood, and then they settle into what they're going to be as an adult. Now, what happened was, during his younger years, he basically learned that if he was thinking on something and went to sleep, he would know about it when he woke up. And they're not really saying anything about. Yeah, his education ended in the ninth grade because his family could not afford the cost. Um, a ninth grade education was often considered sufficient for working class children. Younger years were then characterized by a search for employment. Ninth grade was considered a pretty advanced education for somebody in his circle. He was a kid of a farmer, right? So he did his thing. He did his thing. Okay, so this is what happened. This is what got him started. Um, a, he basically, I'm not sure if it's Case or Casey. I used to always say Casey, so I'm not even sure the proper pronouncing his name. So basically, he developed a condition where he would randomly get very, very, very severe laryngitis with no other symptoms. He just lose the ability to talk. Nobody really knew where it came from. He'd been sick. They kind of assumed that that was probably had something to do with it, right? So he's minding his own business. A traveling hypnotist and entertainer named Hart, who called himself the Laugh Man, traveling entertainers, hypnotists, that sort of thing. Hypnotism was a thing. He heard about Casey's throat condition and offered to attempt a cure. He accepted the offer, and the experiment was conducted in the office of Manning Brown, a local throat specialist. Casey's voice reportedly returned while in a hypnotic trance, but disappeared when he woke up. He this guy unsuccessfully tried a post-hypnotic suggestion that Casey's voice would continue to function after the trance. Now, here's the thing: hypnotism was um, hypnotism was popular at that point in time, 1901. Hypnotism was popular because with the lack of modern healthcare available, like they hadn't even developed. I don't think insulin was even developed by that point. So anything that might work was seen as beneficial, right? So, since Hart had appointments in other cities, he could not continue his treatments of Casey. So basically, when hypnotized, even when he was in full blown laryngitis, while hypnotized, he could speak. So this is why he got into this. Um, yeah, he said that he failed because Casey not enter the 3rd stage of hypnosis and accept a suggestion. A New York hypnotist, Dr. John Duncan Krakenhaus, oh my god, found the same impediment, but after returning so basically, they're finding that hypnotizing clears his voice, but they can't figure out why it's not staying cleared up once he wakes up. Um, the only local hypnotist, Al Lane, offered to help him regain his voice. When Lane put Casey into a trance, Casey communicated vocally. He told Lane to give him a suggestion to increase blood circulation in his throat. Lane gave the suggestion. His throat reportedly turned bright red, and after 20 minutes, still in a trance, Casey, still in a trance, declared the treatment over. On awakening, his voice was said to have remained normal. Relapses occurred, but were reportedly corrected by Lane until the cure became permanent. This is why Casey was routinely doing the trance thing. So just getting himself into that state was because of a medical condition. So, let me see. Okay, so Lane considered Casey's abilities to be clairvoyance. And again, there was so he did come in contact with this. That was my Casey did come in contact with the idea. Hi, free spirit. Casey did come in contact with the idea that hypnotism had benefits and could be used to produce medical cures. Here's let me just skip down. So basically, he's got a relationship with this Lane guy as his personal hypnotist to help him when his throat is fucked up. Okay, I'm not gonna die. Basically that's where it started. That's where it started, and of course, as he's in his trances, he's also adding other information. This is where it starts to get weird. So, yeah, Casey lost his voice again, and Lane came to help effect the normal cure, finally visiting every week. Still worried, Casey kept the meeting secret and continued to refuse money for his readings. Um, yeah, because in 1902, he got a job in a bookstore boarding with several young professionals, 2 of whom were doctors. So people are finding out yeah, Casey was worried about this because one dead patient was only a murderer. I'm going in reverse here. Okay, so Lane the hypnotist is asking basically whatever was going on while he's under this hypnotic state, Lane's realizing that Casey can diagnose more than just his own throat thing and started asking him to provide diagnosis for other patients. Casey was reluctant since he had no idea what he was prescribing while asleep and did not know if his remedies were safe. This is how it started, okay? And he really struggled with this for the rest of his life. Am I helping people? Am I hurt? Like, he knew once he had the proof that he was helping people, but he still struggled because this is a guy who read the Bible once every year. Like he died when he was 67. He read the Bible 67 times. So he's really struggling with this, right? Um, yeah, chiropractic and hypnosis were both things that were regularly used as part of medical practice back at that time. So I did screw up on that one. But so he agreed to do this on the condition that the readings would be free and specified that if the readings ever hurt anyone, he would never do another. Um, so he started doing this locally. It started going from there. Actual doctors started getting involved, and basically he's successful and successful and successful and successful and successful. Only times, the only provable times that his cures did not work was when the patients refused to follow the advice. Um, and then, um, yeah, so eventually he got so well known, he started asking for donations. He wouldn't give a price. He would only ask for donations. He could do this full time. So he continued to work in an apparent trance state with the hypnotist all his life, and his wife and eldest son later replaced Lane in the role. They hired a secretary, Gladys Davis, to write everything down. So let me see. Let me see. So basically, 1923 rolls around, and suddenly he's injecting stuff about past lives. Author Lammers, a wealthy printer and student of metaphysics, persuaded Casey to give views on philosophical subjects in 1923. So now, 20 years later, it's like, hey, let's see if you can do stuff on philosophical stuff. And he's talked about Lammer's past lives and reincarnation, which Lammers believed in, but Casey didn't. So it was a popular subject, but not an accepted part of Christian doctrine, which means that Casey would have had a huge fucking moral dilemma. Okay. So he questioned his stenographer about what he said in his trance state and remained unconvinced. He challenged Lamer's statement that he had validated astrology and reincarnation. So from there, that's when things are getting totally weird. That's the, I am sitting. I should. You know what? I'm going to go open a window because this is like the most airless part of my house. Hey, I'm also going to turn the heat down. That'll help. Hi, Sheila. Ugh. Yeah, we have a body, is what he would always say when in a trance. So basically, his trance state goes like this. He goes into a back room, he gets comfortable. Everything came to him under hypnosis. Everything. So that was just the Coles Note version of how he got there. So this is something he's been able to do his whole life. Absolutely not on par with what his personal belief structures say is true. Hey, I'm really fuzzy. That sucks. Okay. I have to get a better camera or something. I don't know. This camera is not supposed to be that bad. Anyway, so he goes into a hypnotic. So he goes in, he lays down, he gets into a hypnotic state. One person gives him the hypnotic suggestion. Okay, take a deep breath. He goes into his trance state, and then from there, they've got a list of questions. I believe so. I think he could eventually go into a trance without a hypnotist handy. And I'm not sure at what point. I think the hypnotist was just there. I do think that there was always somebody there to make sure that he wouldn't stay stuck. I think that was a concern. Like, what happens if you can't wake up? Because there would have been the belief back then that if you snap somebody out of hypnosis incorrectly, that they can suffer damage or whatever. They can have problems. Anyway, so now here's where we're gonna have some fun. So my favorite one. This is the one that got my undivided attention. Let me see. Okay. Now I'm gonna share the link. There's actually every single thing that he ever did was recorded. This is edgarcayce.org. There is also this burp. There was also a study for research and enlightenment. Every single thing that he has ever done has been recorded. Some of them are like a lot of the times he was talking like almost archaic English. When he would go into his medical trances, he would start speaking like a lot. He would often start speaking with a German accent and say that he was channeling a German doctor that had passed like in the previous century or whatever. So where are we going here? Seriously, that's all you're going to give me? Well, that's wrong. Okay, let's try. I don't want to have to go straight in. I really appreciate how extensive Wikipedia is, but I also want to not just do only on Wikipedia. Yeah, okay, here it is. Let us. But that link does go to a website that talks about a lot of this stuff. Okay. If you see where this girl is swimming, this is called the Bimini Road, and that's a bit more clear, okay? Another one, so there's the 3. So, let me see if I can get the Bimini Road. Did I share it? I didn't share it, did I? I didn't share it. God, I'm not bright. Okay, let's go back up. That is a piece of the Bimini Road, okay? The Bimini Road, yeah, yeah, okay, Moira said, I thought it was interesting that he cut ties with his father, who tried to get stock market and racing tips from him while in France. Kind of a shitty dad. He encountered that several times in his life where people tried to get him to give them all kinds of different financial advice, and every single time it happened, he would be sick afterwards, and every single time he figured it out, um, because sometimes he would, like, agree to do a session with somebody that's not quite like, like his dad, "Oh, I really need some help." It's like, "Okay, let's see," and then they would ask him all these questions. Every single time it happened, he would cut ties with that person and not work with them again. But yeah, there were a few people who got involved in some shit and tried to get him to give them advice. Proves that they believed in him, I guess. So what you're looking at now is a piece of what's called the Bimini Wall, the Bimini Road. Now, at one point, as he's doing these readings, he started talking about. Yeah, he wasn't a fin he never did it for financial success, and he kind of at various times, he talked about how enriching using this skill to enrich himself would not he would just was there was no way he was gonna do that. There was no way. He was not willing to enrich himself, even though he knew he could, because he felt it was unchristian. Oh, okay, well, have fun, Sarah. Yeah, don't starve. Do not starve. No starving. I don't like starving. Okay, let me see if, so Bimini is in the Bahamas. Um, let's see. Nope, I don't want that. So the Bimini Road, that's not a very good one. Of course, you know what? I told myself I was going to do this on the fly because it was going to be a lot more fun. And then I go, is that what I'll be finding? What is that going to show it? Show it, show it, show it. Hurry up, hurry up. Load, damn you. This is the one that caught my attention. This is why I'm kind of hyperfixating on it right now. But thing is that the Bimini Road, yes, it is very much near the Devil's Triangle. It's like Bimini, the Bahamas. So basically, in one of his readings, this is one of his readings, it did not come up. Oops, that's why it's a GIF. So basically, in one of his readings, he talked about how Atlantis was going to Atlantis was going to come back up from underwater. Um, Bimini Road, or the Lost City of Atlantis, is one of the most popular tourist attractions in Bimini because of the mystery surrounding the site. In the 1930s, an American psychic named Edgar Cayce, oh my God, I'm talking too fast. He reported that he had spoken with a person who had lived in the lost city of Atlantis in a former life. This Atlantean told Case that Atlantis had been near Bimini. He predicted that the portions of the temples of Atlantis would become visible near Bimini in 1968 or 1969. This is like 20 years after his death, right? Uh, when a private pilot flying over the waters near North Bimini reported seeing a strange parallel structure in shallow water, many people believe these were either walls from Atlantis or the mysterious road leading to Atlantis, and thus the mystery of Atlantis Road was born. And I'm gonna get it better? No, I'm not gonna get it better. Okay. So, and Devil's Triangle would be an interesting topic. I think that whole area is fascinating. And the thing is that Edgar Casey's description of where the main Edgar Cayce's description of where the main most like, okay, like Canada, we're all the main part of the Canadian population is, like, along our southern border, right? The main part of, Atlantis was apparently in this area place at the temple of which what did they say? They say, um yeah, the temples of Atlantis. Okay, it's temples in general. So so this happens, and so until then, Casey is well known only within certain circles, okay? Then in like, and I forget whether it was 68 or 69, the Bimini Road is found. Suddenly, people are remembering because don't forget, he's from Virginia Beach. He's not geographically that far away in theory, right? So people are going, wait a second, this guy predicted this shit. I cannot believe how crappy this camera is right here. Oh, I know what it's doing. I don't know what the fuck it's doing. I have no idea what the hell this camera's doing. So anyway, so the Bimini Wall pops up. Other things have happened. This is where it caught my undivided attention when I first read about this. It caught my undivided attention because it's like, okay, so what's going on in the Bahamas? In some areas of the Bahamas, the land is rising. It rises, it falls, it rises, it falls because the area is geologically active, right? So this wall comes up. Um, yeah, I could have used a slightly better camera. Um, come on. Oh, now you got the nope. Nope, nope, nope. Man, guys, you know what? I'm gonna have to give up on my idea of not have to give up on my idea of not gathering links up front because this is gonna take more time than I want to put into it. Um, sound is a bit choppy. Oh, you know what? Because I'm sitting there like this, and then that's because my microphone's over there. That's my fault. That is entirely my fault. I got a decent microphone. I'm just a shitty presenter. Okay, so basically, Bimini Wall, the Bimini Wall started for me personally. This one's not a bad photo. It's not showing anything. If you're not like if you're not one of those nerds that have deep dived into it, a lot of the photos are not going to make any sense. Anyway, so basically, what they've discovered in the meantime, ever since they discovered this road, oh, that's just a coincidence. That's just a coincidence. That's just and that can happen. There are plenty of natural structures where they look like that, right? So you've got a nice, clear, sandy plain with this perfectly straight thing going on for like half a kilometer, and it just goes on. And then as they are doing more and more exploring in the area, let's see. Here's the thing: when it comes to searching, you got to keep searching it. Yeah, because then you've got somebody who draws their own. And you've got the fantasy art representations, and you gotta go through all that. Come on, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. Anyway, what they have discovered, um, what they have discovered from this is that this is far more extensive than people realized. There are the original Bimini wall that they find, they've never been able to definitively decide what it is. And when there have been people that have gone in and lifted one of the top stones, finding more stones underneath, so clearly it's part of a larger structure. And of course, nobody wants to admit that it's real or that it's related to some psychic who predicted it. That's where that came from. Um, that was the first thing that he did. Then they're asking him, "How did you know this?" Let's just go straight back to Edgar Cayce. Edgar Cayce, Atlantis. If this just pops up, so there are literally, yeah, I'm going through like eight or nine different books right now to get to. Yep, I should have researched this. My God, there's so much shit to go through. I did all this shit years and years and years ago. Just a minute. Uh, the one I thought I had, I can't find, but the one I have might have a better picture. Anyway, okay. So, is that right? Is that right? It just doesn't have it. Nope. Okay. So basically, what we're talking about here is during one of his the reason why Atlantis became such a huge topic. Atlantis and Egypt both became huge topics of what Casey would talk about because in his past lives he was a priest in Atlantis and in no was he a priest in Atlantis or in his past lives he lived in Atlantis and in his past lives he was a priest in Egypt, which at the time of Egypt's original founding, according to Edgar Cayce, was had a close relationship with um, with the original Atlantis before it was destroyed. So, with that in mind, now you've got this guy who is. People were talking about Atlantis before Casey, but the thing is that what everybody was talking about Atlantis. What is it? Where is it? Is it real? This. First, Plato was the first to mention Atlantis. Plato was the first one to mention Atlantis, and he mentioned how it was. Um, yeah, the principal source of the legend for Atlantis are Plato's dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. Um, in Timaeus, Plato describes how Egyptian priests described Atlantis as an island larger than Asia Minor and Libya compared and situated just beyond the Pillars of Hercules. So, according to, oh, come on, bring that photo up on my phone. No, but okay. This is kind of. Oh, that's the wrong side. That's this is reversed because this is like a mirror image map. I don't know how they did that, but you've got America on this side, Atlantis here and here. I'm pointing with my finger as if you guys can see that, and I bet you how much do you want to bet? I haven't even put it up yet. This is in reverse because it's got America on this side and it's got Africa and Titania on that side. So it's showing Atlantis in the middle with more islands over here. And this is just like a hand drawing, right? But this is kind of the idea that Plato was talking about. Pillars of Hercules is a Strait of Gibraltar. Come on, come on, come on. It's not going to do it. I am just doing this. Okay, so this is the Pillars of Hercules. I'm pointing again with my finger. The Pillars of Hercules is basically the Straits of Gibraltar. Yeah, it's all reversed. It's reversed. It's just it was a crappy map, but it kind of gave an idea. Okay, so basically, according to Edgar Cayce, and according to Plato, and according to a lot of other sources, Edgar Cayce's description of let's do this. Come on. Jesus Christ, book after book after book. Basically, once he started talking about this sort of stuff, people came from far and wide asking him to do this. So what he would do is he would do his medical stuff. He would answer all of his medical questions because that was his primary focus. His primary focus was providing healing information because the medical system just wasn't all that advanced, and it was a perfect it was a for-profit medical system. If you were poor, you just couldn't go to the doctor. It didn't work that way, so you had to find something else, right? Come on. Um, there's a better view of how he viewed it. Okay, so let me share. Yep, I gotta start doing it. I gotta at least start doing a little tiny bit of research, grab a few links. I completely lost track of just how there have been hundreds, hundreds of books written about him, and even more coming up. So this is a more. Is it going to bring it in closer? Come on, That's a little more of a look. It's hard to see, but according to him, Atlantis was basically a large continent that existed between North America and Africa, Europe. And he also talked about there being lots and lots of islands throughout, with several large land masses and lots of islands. So we're coming. There's the Straits of Gibraltar there. I don't know if you guys can see my little mousey there. And then Atlantis being a landmass mostly above water here, and then North America over here. So basically, his version of Atlantis has them so close that yeah, the Caribbean, as we understand it now, are the remnants of the west coast of Atlantis. That's how he describes it. And just off the Pillars of Hercules, which is the Straits of Gibraltar, that whole area is relatively shallow to the rest of the area. So according to Plato, you come out the Straits of Gibraltar and just keep going, and you're going to run into the first of the islands of Atlantis. Now, Atlantis itself was apparently not necessarily the most welcoming place for outsiders. So, and also Plato's story, Plato makes it very clear that by the time that he is talking about Atlantis, Atlantis itself has already been gone for like a really long time. I want to say thousands of years, but I don't want to, okay. Yeah, so according to Plato, Atlantis was drowned under the rising sea levels 11,000 years ago. And Plato, he wrote that in 360 BC in 360 BC, he wrote that Atlantis sank 11,000 years ago. So that's 13,400 years from the present time. And that's part of the older dryas. Now, what's really interesting though is this is also really, really interesting because there was an event called the Younger Dryas event where we had sudden catastrophic sea level rise. Well, Plato is talking about Atlantis existing. Atlantis existed and then was suddenly drowned, and he's listing time frames to a geological event he would never have known about. There's no way that Plato would know what the Younger Dryas was. It was a sudden, abrupt global warming, and within the space, and nobody knows what the time frame was. But the time frame of that was a sudden abrupt warming, and the sea levels rose by several hundred feet, burying tons of shit. So that's an interesting thing. But anyway, I'm mostly babbling right now. How have the Bimini stones been dated? Let's see. The unfortunate problem is that contemporary science is saying that they're a natural feature. Yeah, the Bimini Road has been dated at around 2,000 to 4,000 years old, too young to be part of Atlantis. But again, the accuracy of dating is admittedly questionable. The problem is that dating the stone itself is one thing. They have to date based on what's around it, right? Um, but then again, 4,000 years ago. Now, I would say that with the Bahamas and that area still remaining above sea level 4,000 years ago, well, if most of Atlantis was drowned out in this Younger Dryas event, then the survivors would be over here, and then eventually so you never know, right? You have no idea. Anyway, back to Edgar Cayce. We're supposed to be making this all about Edgar Cayce. So basically, Edgar Cayce, yeah, edgarcayce.org, the Center for Research and Enlightenment. This is something that the Center for Research and Enlightenment still exists to this day. That's that website that I shared with you. Um, this center still exists today because people are still to this day studying his stuff. So basically, he starts doing readings for people, and this is where things get really freaking wild because you write in a letter, "Hi, this is what I've got going on. I need a cure. I need this. I need that." And he's like, "Okay, on this day at this time, he's trying to get an appointment. Right? At this on this day at this time, please try to sit. Please try to find somewhere to sit quietly, so that you can just relax, so that I can better connect with you and figure out what's wrong with you, give you a diagnosis, and give you a treatment." Okay, this is how this whole thing works. This is how the medical side of it works. And like I said, what was going on was in the course of the medical side of things, he would start talking about other things. Oh, blah, blah, blah. This person, oh, I've seen this person before in Atlantis. I saw this person before in Egypt. And this is where this stuff started happening from. And it's really weird. Now, the interesting part, okay, the really, really interesting part is that if I can get the number right away. Back to so this is all holistic. Oh yeah. Yeah, he was very, very involved in his church. Okay, let's go into this because this is somebody. Yeah, most of his readings were about people's health, but he occasionally commented on the future. He made predictions about the future, but he predicted the deaths of two presidents, saying, "You are to have turmoil, you are to have strife between capital and labor, you are to have a division in your own land before you have the second of the presidents that next will not live through his office." Yeah, he predicted Franklin Delano Roosevelt dying in office. He predicted JFK's assassination. He predicted the fall of communism and the collapse of the Soviet Union. He predicted the stock market crash in 1929, um, and taught his clients how to prepare for the crash and how to play the bull market. Now, yeah, his clients didn't pay attention to him, and he lost all the money. Because so he's not necessarily going to give financial advice, but he's going to say, "Oh, this is coming up. You better prepare for it." And his success rate was something ridiculous, like 85%. Some of the more celebrated psychics of modern times don't have that success rate, and that was just with prescribing treatments and stuff. Um, yeah, he predicted his own death 4 days before it happened. So anyway, this goes in circles because um, I think he did. I think he did. Um, yeah, okay, Plato was very clear. Plato was very clear that he was describing events as described in older texts. Because don't forget, back then, the Library of Alexandria still existed, and the Library of Alexandria was reputed to hold the combined knowledge of all mankind before it was destroyed in the Crusades, I believe. Which one's that? But he created so many atomic iodine, um, castor oil. Edgar Cayce was the one who started prescribing castor oil, both as something to take internally and as something to apply to your skin. Castor oil pack therapy for uh, let's see, yeah, health benefits of castor oil. Castor oil has been used for a while, but he started prescribing it for things like he started prescribing it for things like cataracts. He started prescribing it for all sorts of things. Let me see if I can get. Yeah, this person's providing. There we go. There we go. Let's find some stuff. I finally found some stuff. Yeah, I should have done. Yeah, I'm just gonna kick myself in the. I'm gonna kick myself in the ass for this. Yeah, Plato wrote about a lot of things. Plato wrote about the Trojan War at the time that we rediscovered. At the time, okay, even in Plato's time, the Trojan War was thought to be just a story, right? And yet, somebody took the details from the story and actually went and located Troy. Plato always said that the inspiration for his writings came from ancient texts that he had had access to and read, and that's where he was not presenting unique original ideas. He was describing things that he'd read, things that he had learned. When it comes to Atlantis, well, that sucks. Okay, that one's gone. That one's gone. Yeah, here we go. It is so difficult, like I said, because there's the research, there's the Center for Research on Enlightenment in Virginia Beach. People literally, anybody who's researching metaphysical stuff goes in and they look this stuff up constantly. Okay, so top 10 predictions by Edgar Cayce. Let's go over this. I actually found something good. Only took me an hour. Okay, so the Bimini Road. And again, the Bimini Road is really, really interesting because the thing is that the Bimini Road is Bimini, Bahamas, which is right on one of the corners of the Devil's Triangle, where weird shit is talked about all the time. And there have been multiple reports of a pyramid existing in some of the deeper water, a pyramid in the deeper water off in the Devil's Triangle. Quote, because the once you get too close, everybody who reports finding this weird pyramid says as soon as they get close enough, they cannot, their compass readings are off, so they can never quite identify exactly what they are when they spot it because the compass goes crazy. So the Bimini Road in Atlantis, and he said that Atlantis was going to. It was, people take things too literally. Oh, Atlantis will rise. It's like, no, Atlantis will start becoming more and more visible. And the interesting thing about that region of the Caribbean is that the land is that it's geologically active. Sometimes land drops, sometimes land rises back up. So it's really interesting, especially the timing in which that was found. Yeah, in 1938, he predicted it, expected in 68 or 69, and the road was discovered in 1968. And he said it was the rising of Atlantis. Now, the really interesting thing is, like I said, if you don't take it literally, The rising of Atlantis sounds quite poetic, but the rediscovering of a lost continent is much more mundane and normal. And like we've just recently discovered, like 3 or 4 years ago, that New Zealand is actually part of a sunken continent. It's like New Zealand back in the older Dryas was literally a continent that connected to Indonesia all by itself. Okay, he describes Atlantis as being an ancient civilization of equal size to Europe and having much more superior technology. He also said that Atlantis disappeared somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean around 10,000 years ago, and went on to say that it went into three major periods of division, the first two occurring around 15,600 BC. The mainland then divided into islands, which he named Pisidia, Og, and Aryan, which is interesting because like he made it very clear that he was there over the course of multiple lifetimes. He experienced living in Atlantis. Um, he also said that the people of Atlantis built giant laser-like crystals for power plants, which caused destruction of the land. He blamed the final destruction of the land and their culture on greed and lust. Lastly, he said there was a large migration of Atlanteans to Egypt, which is then he talks about that because he talks about being a priest in Egypt at that time of that during part of that transitional time. The sinking of the last remnants of Atlantis were due to the biblical flood of Noah, which is interesting because, again, according to Plato, this happened around the time of the Younger Dryas, which was a massive sea level increase. Basically, during the older Dryas, we still had glaciers everywhere. Glaciers were everywhere. Something happened, and they basically just melted all at once. So all this water is just cascading into the sea, and we have evidence of that. Even the Grand Canyon, it's like we used to think that the Grand Canyon was carved out over millions of years, and now we're seeing now the geologists are saying, well, there's evidence that it was actually like an ice shelf melted and it's caused a massive flood. So that part's going all over the place, right? Or was I? I clicked the button. I don't want that. Oh, I do want that. I might want that one. Oh my! What did I do? Did I exit out? Oh no, there we go. Okay. So the interesting thing is that a lot of other information that we've learned about through Plato's writings, through geological evidence, matches what he said. Matches what he said. So it's like, oh, okay. And don't forget that the mid-Atlantic is like we're spreading this the Atlantic Ocean is widening this way. So land, like I said, that it's active. Land goes up, land goes down, just because of the tectonic plate movement. I found this really, really fascinating because when I saw pictures of these walls and I saw pictures of some of the other stuff, like I said, you literally have to buy a book now to go find it because it's just everywhere. But the thing is that it got really weird really fast for me when I started reading this stuff because it's like it makes sense. But but that's the two presidents. I already mentioned that one, so we'll skip that. He predicted Franklin Roosevelt dying in office, and then he predicted JFK. And it's interesting, unless there was more give and take consideration for those who produce with better divisions of the excess profits from labor, there must be greater turmoil in the land. And JFK came into office right around the time some of that was happening. And this was 1963. This was like what 45, 60, it was 20 years after he died. So he predicted the collapse of the Soviet Union. He predicted the stock market crash in 29 and also taught his clients. I don't believe this part. Also taught his clients how to prepare for the crash. Now he would I'm sure he would say to his client, this is coming, be prepared. But I don't think he would give this. He was adamantly against giving financial advice. So except for saying, hey, keep an eye on your money or reconsider your investment, I don't think he would. I don't think he prepared anybody. He foresaw the Great Depression and said it would lift in the spring of 1933, and it did. So he's predicting this stuff in advance. He's accurate. Revolutions in foreign lands. He predicted in March 1935 that many foreign nations revolutions unless there was a more spiritual attitude raised in groups. 1936, the Spanish Civil War broke out. Japan China, Italy invaded Ethiopia, and Joseph Stalin elevated the Great Purges throughout Russia. Now that can just be somebody into the news, and this is what you're going to do. You're going to go, well, he just watched the news. Was he just careful about the news? He predicted Hitler, and he predicted that in January 1934 that Adolf Hitler would rise in power to reign over Germany. He stated that imperialism is entering. Then in August 35, he predicted Hitler would remain in power until it will come as an overthrow or an outside war. So he predicted World War II at that time. Don't forget, World War II didn't start until 1939. At that time, Hitler was reunifying Europe. It, at that time, we know. Okay, we know now what Hitler was doing, but publicly, what did the public know in 1934? The public in 1934 knew that Germany was still okay after World War I. Germany had to pay reparations, so Germany was dealing with a big, huge, giant bill from the First World War, still trying to crawl out of that economic sludge that happened. The Great Depression has just finished, and even though the Great Depression had its biggest impact, well, for us, we only see the North American impact. We don't know what the Great Depression did to Europe. So Hitler coming into power when he did, and without the hindsight, without the benefit of 2020 hindsight, like we have now, 70 years later, he is promoting nationalism, which is promoting jobs, which is promoting growth, which is promoting the benefit of your country. Hitler was not seen as the bad guy. Even in 1939, when he tried to annex Poland, it was seen as a political move, not a Hitler's crazy move. And I'm not apologizing for Hitler. This is not like we have to be really, really careful here. Oh, we'll get into that. Does he know where Kate Middleton? What do you mean where Kate Middleton is? Where's Kate Middleton? Okay, so basically, at that time, with how easy it is to cherry pick what information is going out to the public, okay, Hitler was not Hitler at the time that Edgar Cayce would have made his prediction was not recognized as the truly problematic person that he was, right? So this is it's an interesting prediction that he would make a prediction like this when at that particular time politically, as far as the public was aware, Hitler was doing good things for Germany. The Jews returning into Israel, he predicted that in 1932. The Jews would return to Israel and advise the Jews to regard the anti-Semitism in Europe as the time to fulfill the biblical prophecy for them to return. The nation of Israel was established in 1948. And again, looking through a lens of history, he's a Christian man, which means that anti-Semitism was a big, huge problem. Most people had no problem with it. And because of the religious divide that people experienced, even you just didn't get it. I do not know how to describe this without making it sound super shitty because hindsight is 2020. So he's looking, going, this is what the Jews need to do for what's best for them. And this is coming at a time and a place from a deeply Christian man who, if you're not a Christian, then you're not. Why am I interested? This sort of thing, right? I'm not making judgments on him as a person, but again, no cameras everywhere, no social media, no this, no that. You only get what you're given. So for him to have recognized this and been able to make a prediction based on this was quite surprising. You know what I mean? This is what really caught my attention about Cayce, is that a lot of the predictions that he made at that time in history, from what he was doing, where he was doing it from, and what access to. Yes, he's going to have access to information. I'm not saying that he was stupid, but information on what was going on with Jews in Europe would have not filtered through to where he is, not in the same way that we can get that information now. So he's making these predictions, which are very, very, which it's next level predicting, because he's making predictions based on shit he's making predictions based on what's going on, even though what's going on, almost no information on that is getting back all the way from one continent to another, right? And he's still like, so yeah, he's doing he is getting the information somewhere, and it's not from your local newspaper or the internet or from your friends or from social media. It's not none of that exists yet. And he's getting the information going, yeah, this is what's gonna happen. This is how you need to do it. And he was right at every step of the way. Um, During the time of the Soviet Union, Edgar Cayce predicted that Russia would one day be an ally of the United States. He said, for changes are coming, this may be sure, an evolution or revolution in the ideas of this is something interesting, actually, because he did the basis for the world will eventually come out of Russia, not communism, no, but rather that which is the basis of the same as the Christian taught, this kind of communism. Now, the prediction came true after the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, which Casey also predicted. See, I don't think that's, we can make an assumption that that's when it came true, but I don't think that's when it came true because the Russians were still very much, are still very much a communist country. And he's talking about, um, which is the basis of the same as Christ taught, this kind of communism, looking out for your fellow man, do good deeds, this sort of thing. And we don't have that kind of relationship with Russia yet. I think that hasn't happened yet. And he never gave a time for it. The shifting of the Earth's poles is predicted. Um, Now this one here is weird. I think this one here is kind of weird, but we proved that pole shifting exists, and we proved that when it happens, we do have weather anomalies and weather mix-ups, and they're doing more and more work to see whether or not this is something that we could predict. And he predicted that changes to the Earth's surface would begin sometime between 1958 and 1998. The cause of the changes begin the shift of the world's magnetic poles around the year 2000. He said when this occurs, it would bring reversals in the world's climate, where there's been a frigid or semi-tropical climate, there'll be a more tropical one, and moss and fern will grow. Um, According to NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, something changed the Earth's gravitational field, which moved the magnetic poles closer together in 1998. And it confirmed his predictions of a pole shift, but it did not happen that we were going to have all this other problems. And lastly, he predicted his own death. He during World War II, he got um, yeah, we're going to look at that in a minute. During World War II, basically, he got so flooded with people wanting to know because millions and millions of soldiers. Is my son still alive? How's my son doing? You could be a soldier. You could be a soldier on the front line in World War II, and sometimes your letters home were getting there after you got home, because it's just a big fucking mess, right? Casey had already built enough of a following that that once World War II broke out, he was overdoing it to the point where his doctors basically told him he needed to stop. His Imagine having the ability to predict your own death. His visions warned him that he would not use his psychic abilities more than twice a day, or serious health problems would occur. World War II was happening. Are my loved ones doing well? The blah 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 blah. So he was doing it anyway, and it killed him. Um, He was rather well known and received thousands of requests. He ignored the warnings and went on with the readings because this was the only reason why he ever agreed to do this to because to help facilitate. And whether or not he learned to put himself in a trance in later years, he needed a hypnotist to put him into the trance. So he was not willing to put in that kind of an effort unless it was to help people. That was the primary goal. So yeah, he died of a stroke in Hopkins, Kentucky, where he was born. So we are going to look at a cat. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of a data dump. This guy is kind of a data dump because he did so much because again, once he'd been doing this for a while, he reached this level of popularity where he was doing this full time and he would do like dozens of readings in a day. Let's buy a book. Okay. Okay. This one's fun. This one's fun. Aha. Nope, that's not it. Let's see. I need better pictures. If I could spell it. Okay. I keep saying okay. I keep saying okay like I'm like this is it. Can't do that. Bear with me. Okay. Okay, we will see what we can do with this. Okay, so what does he have to say about the Akashic records? For starters, Casey said that the Akashic records were a oh, is it? Whatever. So yeah, so basically, Edgar Cayce is considered the most documented psychic of all time. By the way, um, he described that the Akashic records are basically a record of everything that's ever happened, everything that is happening, everything that will happen, and all that you need is to go into a psychic trance and go and look at them. And he's also said that those records, that there is a physical representation of those records on Earth in 3 hidden locations. Um, okay. When there is the thought or the activity of the body in any particular environ, this very activity makes for the impression upon the soul, right? So every single thing you do creates something that can be measured, recorded, and kept. As to the records made by such an activity, these are written upon what is known as time or space. Um, Cases stated that it was not only possible for individuals to attune to the Akashic records, but that it was something that occurred frequently. Now, this is interesting because this is something that I kind of always wonder. We were talking about dreams, right? Prophetic dreams last week, and this is what God is talking today, right? So it's like if you have a dream that predicts the future, is it because you are okay? Take a book, flip through it, and oh, that's lessons. Oh, that's some Guinea. Oh, there's some British people. There's so I'm not forming a whole right. I am just getting little snapshots of what's going on and hoping for the best. Is that is that what I was looking for? My freaking god! The new world. No, that's something else. So if I'm looking through this, yeah, I thought I saw something important, right? So it's like, okay, so if you're just flipping through, you're going to pick up little bits and little pieces. So basically, what happens if you're not trained? I used to play this game with my kids. They wanted to read the paper. We used to get the newspaper every day, and my kids wanted to read the newspaper with me. I would get my coffee and sit down. The kids would grab their juice and they would come over and they would sit down and we would read the paper together. So we would read the paper together. Well, I would read the paper and they would say, "What's this word, mommy? What's this word, mommy?" And I would tell them the odd word here, the odd word there. It's like, "What letter is that?" They would do the thing. So then I would say, "Oh, that's the word and. Is that word there someplace else?" And then they would go look, right? Forming that imperfect idea. And they are reading the paper, right? I'm over explaining because I can. Anyway, so what I always wonder when it comes to dreaming and dream interpretation and stuff like that is if we are getting an imperfect view of the Akashic records, because the Akashic records are supposed to be, according to Edgar, where is it? Come on. Although the records are not physical in nature, an individual in attunement could hear, read, and experience the information nonetheless. So if you're not because you're not trained and not quite sure what you're doing, you're going to get little tiny snapshots. You're going to get like flipping through a magazine, right? And then when you have a dream, When you wake up and you remember your dream, you're gonna go, "Oh, well, I was dreaming about this and this and this and this and this. This is a piece that was interesting," and all this other shit goes around. You gotta sort it all out, right? So um, I think that is I think that is where that means like it occurs frequently. We just don't understand it. We can't interpret it because even Casey, when he woke up from these trances, didn't remember them. That's why they had to hire people. That's why they had to hire a stenographer. And a lot of the times when he was talking in the tone and accent of whoever, like he would he would regress back to past lives and then be speaking English with the tone or accent of that particular life. So it got weird, right? Um, in order to illustrate what an individual might perceive while viewing this information, shit, I should have just kept reading instead of talking, right? Case told an 18-year-old girl that the Akashic records of the mental world might be compared to a movie theater of the physical world. This movie could be replayed in an effort to understand what had occurred in an individual's experience period, which I agree with, at any time, or in any place in history. Also, within this data was a record of lessons learned, opportunities lost, faults acquired, and experiences gained. Kind of like a video game, if you think about it. This is kind of how I think. This is kind of how I think reincarnation works. And he talks about this a lot. That each individual life, you're supposed to unlearn bad habits, relearn new habits, do better, right? Just like school. Also within this data was a record of lessons. Okay, lessons learned. Let me catch up to where I was. In addition, although an individual's actions could be misinterpreted or misconstrued in the physical world, the Akashic records maintain an objective record of a person's real life because it reported his or her true intent. So there's no secrets there. And the Akashic records, you could look at your own or anybody else's because they were completely neutral and impartial. Um, In 1934, while giving a reading to a 28-year-old freight agent, Casey tried to define these records further. Not only did he discuss what Akashic records were, but he explained how they were written and clarified how an individual could gain access to the information. Apparently, any type of endeavor, whether action, thought, desire, or deed, creates some kind of activity or vibration. This vibration is a mark on the skein of space and time and is somehow permanently identified with the individual responsible. Although unseen, it is an etheric energy that is evident to a that is as evident to a sensitive as the printed word to a sighted person. Um, okay, well, I'm doing good. I just have little like itchies going on right now. I got a garbage right beside me. I'm not throwing it on the floor. So that is where we are with the Akashic records. So the really interesting thing is that Casey probably has given more information on Akashic records than any other psychic, and his information has stayed consistent. And what's really interesting, what's really really interesting, punchline, is that he talked about how there are 3 locations where copies of the Akashic records are kept, and I don't know what he means by that. But one of the things that he says is that the Akashic records are at the pyramid complex of Giza. That there is a chamber under there is a pardon me, a chamber under the Sphinx where the records are kept, and talking about how I don't know how people do this and not be burping and farting and making all kinds of noise. And you see those guys that do those. Aw, well, you have a good day, Barb. Stay out of trouble. Stay out of trouble. Just when I'm actually starting to get on track, get interesting. But okay, so the purpose of the Akashic records, since these records are so complete, so accurate, and so individualized, the logical question might be just what is the purpose of the Akashic records in the first place? Simply put, the answer has to do with keeping track of and assisting with each soul's personal growth and transformation. Now that's interesting because that's a very Buddhist reincarnate until you've improved yourself enough so that you can go to the next level of existence idea. But again, lifelong dedicated Christian who reads the Bible once for every year of his life is not going to be okay with this. He really struggled his whole life with where this was coming from. Okay. Basically, this is something that Casey had to say. God is essentially love, and the universe is completely orderly. Beyond that concept is the premise that each individual was purposely created as a soul to become a companion with the Creator. That's very that actually that's not very Christian. That's very Buddhist again. Um, yeah, basically, Casey says that we are created in God's image, and therefore our natural state is spirit. Which again, not very Christian. Okay, so basically, okay, so let's go over the story time. I'm gonna grab this. I'm gonna open this back up. Oh yeah, they should come on the label. I do not know how these guys do that. These guys that come on and sit there for like 4 plus. Well, Lisa, fucking once a month. She's on there for 4 hours. She's not doing none of this shit. I don't know how she does it. She must be a alien. I don't know. I gotta check because I can't do it. Which one was it? Ah, that one. Okay. So thusly and therefore. So one of the things that Casey said is that the Akashic records are in 3 places on the earth. What the fuck is the third one? Um, yeah, so basically, I don't know how, yeah, basically, um, there's all this stuff. Like, oh, they're being stored in the fifth dimension. Basically, Edgar Cayce stated that there are 3 places on earth where the Akashic records are kept, and that anybody who accesses this does not need, you can just basically walk in like a library and help yourself. You don't need any special thing. These 3 locations on earth gives you access to the Akashic records without any special preparation, training, or anything, just like walking into a library. One, he said, is in the pyramid that sank with Atlantis. Where did he say the second one was? There was 3. Uh, I can't remember the third one. Come on. Come on. Okay. So basically you can access the records. You can access the records if you're sufficiently psychic, and and he basically said that most people can learn how to do it. If they really if they had the proper training. Um, what is meant by the book of life? The record of the individual entity writes upon the skein of time and space. Um, what is the book of God's remembrances? That is the book of life. The Akashic records, those may be made by the individual just as okay, I'm not gonna agonize. Where's the third location? I'm not gonna agonize the second location. The third location. Ascended Masters. I will look that up in just a second. We'll see what we can find. Okay, so okay, so this is really interesting, and you can even look this up for yourself. So he's talking about Akashic records. He's talking about locations. He's talking about secret rooms underneath the third location, a secret chamber underneath the Sphinx at the pyramid complex of Giza. Okay, and he's talking about this. So it's like, okay, oh, there's a secret chamber with Akashic spiritual records underneath the pyramid of Giza, and if you can access this chamber, you can just literally you don't I can just walk in and go, oh, let's just look this shit up. We don't know what it is. We don't know what he's talking about. We don't know anything about that. But what we do know is that, drum roll, please. Oh, that's a YouTube video. Nope, we don't want the what? Okay, I'm just sharing this for now. What we do want, well, that's Pinterest, but it's still what we do know is that a secret chamber was found underneath the Sphinx. And for some strange reason, the Egyptian government will not let anybody even they won't let anybody do anything about it. Um, there's 2 different things that they found, and they're not quite sure what to do with either of them. So the first thing that they found, let's get this up here. The first thing they found is that behind the Sphinx's ear, this was closed back up, and there is evidence there is there's evidence that down. Hi, kid. Oh, great topic. It was Casey, very interesting. Yeah, I'm just babbling about him. Honestly, we're just kinda like hitting and running on a whole bunch of, like, basic stuff because, like, there's entire books written about very, very specific things, and I wouldn't mind getting he is my favorite he is, like, probably one of my favorite topics. I wouldn't mind getting into very, very, very specific things about him there is because he did so much. He touched on so much, and so much of what he did, like, back when Edgar Cayce was talking about the Akashic records being in a secret chamber underneath the Sphinx, the idea that there was a secret chamber underneath the complex of any kind was just simply no. The pyramids and the Sphinx were built on bedrock, there was nothing underneath, right? And yet, like, how many years later is it now? How many years later is it now? And they have found out that not only are there, chambers underneath the Sphinx, there's an opening in the top of its head, there's an opening in its ear. They've never been given permit they've been okay, it makes sense as a from a national treasure perspective. They've never been given permission to do anything with those areas because they don't know if they could possibly damage or destroy the Sphinx by trying to go in there, right? And there is also that's, that's oh, that's a bit I'm the one doing the video. I don't think I could show 2 videos at the same time without really screwing things up. So there is a possibility there we go, is that one? Come on. So basically what they have discovered is that there are shafts and tunnels going underneath the Sphinx. There are shafts and tunnels going underneath, the pyramids. There are shafts and tunnels going all kinds of places. Which one did it say I'm doing? There we go. So basically what this one here is just a Google image thing. I'm not gonna try and deep dive right this second. Um, let me see if I can find it. Come on. If anybody's been paying any attention to somewhat recent, or bring this up. Where is it? Yeah, mother. I'm just gonna use the computer for a while. I'm just gonna yell. Okay, so the thing is, what they've discovered is that for some reason, they've dug ground level, and they have literally dug through, and there are underground chambers and passages all through the entire plateau. They have no idea what they're there for. They have no idea or why they were there. But okay, let me just be like that person for a minute. They have no idea why they were built. Um, they've already basically proven that the really used as a tomb. They've never found a body there. As a matter of fact, the tunnels are too narrow. Most of the passageways that you would need to get to these chambers are not big enough to support a sarcophagus or anything else that was in there. They already know about that one. Oh, come on. Yep, I'm gonna have to start doing a little bit homework and getting, stuff up and going because this is taking too long. I don't mind taking time for it, but, am I gonna show it this time? Nope. Okay, it's there, go look for it, please. Okay, so shafts and okay, this one here is the Great Sphinx of Giza tunnels and chambers. There are a number of known passages, holes, tunnels, and chambers inside the Giza Sphinx. The thing that matters here is that yeah, let's put that up for a second. Okay. The main thing to pay attention to here is that during Edgar Cayce's time, the idea that they were underground, that the idea that there was anything underneath these structures, nobody believed. There was no evidence of it because don't forget, excavation and exploration of the Giza Plateau has been ongoing for a very long time. The his reporting that there is under, underwater pyramid from Atlantis that holds a copy of the record. That's completely inaccessible. And um, there was one other place that was mentioned. I cannot remember it. I'm going to have to go look that up. Like I said, I thought, okay, I knew it was going to be super easy to find information on Edgar Case, but I didn't realize that 90% of it was going to be go buy my book. So that's really like, I shot myself on this one. So if you're looking off to the, if you look off to the one that's on the, well, there's two of them there. But you can see the representation of what they think that the underground under the Sphinx is going to look like. Now, um, according to Edgar Cayce, the Akashic records are not physical; they are like etched in time. But what he said was is that you can access those records from these three locations, and I'm assuming, and everybody who has gotten like interested in this topic is like assuming that that means that if I find my way in there with no skill to look at the Akashic records in any other way, can just walk in and treat it like a library. We have no idea because until somebody goes in and goes, "Hey, look, there's look 3D, there's me." It's like you're not going to know. What's really interesting is that he predicted these structures. He predicted an underground temple where this stuff was located 100 years before it was found. In a situation where when you've got like millions of tons of pyramid above you, it's not going to occur to you to even think that there could. It took scientists until the last like 20 years to recognize that there could be something under the pyramids. They never looked seriously for. They never looked serious. Not until recently. They started using lidar and the ground penetrating radar and stuff like that. That's how they've identified them because they find these big voids. There's a void inside the pyramid. The, inside the one pyramid, they go up. Um, I just had it. I just had it. But yeah, like there's the possibility that there's a structure inside the Sphinx itself, and there's a possibility that there's a structure underneath, further underneath the Sphinx. Already found that there's a big void inside the main pyramid at Giza that they have no idea why there's a big empty space in there, and they have no idea what to do about it or how to get to it. No idea. So they're just going kind of crazy trying to figure out what this shit's all about. And of course, the interesting thing is, can we bring that up? Is that gonna that's gonna show it. The interesting thing is that they finally started admitting. Let's go to that one. Share this tab. What's interesting, there are lots of Akashic record readers on YouTube who had a. No, I've never done that. I've never tried to do that. Lisa's done past life readings on me before, and they're always really interesting. Um, she she has been. She also did some readings. Every reading that she's always done on me has been dead on. She predicted that my father wasn't my father, like the first year we were married. So I rely on her. I rely on her. But the interesting thing here about the Sphinx as well, going back to what I was babbling about an hour or so ago, the interesting thing about the Sphinx here is that it shows signs of water damage, and that could have only happened when we were dry ass. They're now starting to finally recognize that maybe the Sphinx is older than what they think it is. But anyway, So, Akashic records are really, really interesting. The fact that Edgar Cayce could access them was, like, insanely interesting, um, and really interesting. It's okay, it's all interesting. I'm gonna overuse the word interesting. Um, yeah, this is this one. Why am I on Facebook? This is Facebook. I'm not gonna go Facebook. That's weird. Sorry, I'm probably getting if I cover my mouth, if I my microphone's over there, if I cover my mouth, it's, yeah, I'm not next time we pick a topic that's this popular, I'm gonna try and remember to do some, research first, get some links ready to go. I'm just gonna babble on about that now. So anyway, now according to Edgar Cayce, he was a priest at the time in Egypt when the pyramids were still fresh and new. So that's something else too that really matters. Um, I believe I believe they were already being called that. Yeah, Helena Blavatsky, who characterizes it as a sort of life force, she also referred to the indestructible tablets of the astral light, including both the past and future of human thought and action, but she did not use the term akasha. Okay, well then, yeah. So the term had been around for a while before Casey started using it, and he never really said he had a really weird way of talking when he was in his trances because he would go in a bit of a circle on things. Like instead of saying, "Oh, we have John Smith here," he'd go, "We have the body." The body's condition as it pertains to, and he was he had this strange formality. Um, but yeah, it was really interesting the stuff that he had to say. And what's really freaky is just how accurate most of the stuff is. And even the stuff that isn't accurate, there's stuff in it that makes sense. Like he predicted the pole shift thing, right? That wasn't even a concept. That wasn't something that anybody talked about. He predicted it, he talked about it, he explained it. Then he went on to add that, oh, if the poles shift, it's going to screw up the environment and the weather, and places that are currently under ice will be ferns will grow where previously they never did, stuff like that. It's like he got that part wrong, but the rest of it was all correct. And this is what he did, right? But yeah, he never really used the word of Catholic records himself, but he acknowledged that that's what was being referred to. Um, yeah, whoa. What is meant by the book of life? I still had the page up. I did it right this time. The record that the individual entity itself writes on the scene of time and space through patience and is open when self has attuned to the infinite and may be read by those attuning into that consciousness. So yeah, and may be read by those attuning into that consciousness. The book of God's remembrance. This is the book of life. The Akashic records, those made by the individual, as just indicated. So he used the book of life. But acknowledges that it's the same Akashic record that people are referring to. Yeah, this is something that you would say. Yes, we have the body here, and the record as has been made as and we have the body here, and the record as has been made, and as may be made with the will as exercised, and the condition, irrespective of the will's influence or effect, has been created. We have conditions that might have been, that are, and that may be. Do not get the three mixed up or cross purposes of either. So he was very rambly in his readings. Yes, yes. He channeled various people at various times by way of the Book of Life, the Akashic records. So he was sometimes he's claimed to be channeling spirits directly, and sometimes he was channeling previous knowledge from the Book of Records. When he was talking about Egypt, especially when he was talking about Egypt, he was channeling his own past life experiences. Yeah, he was the priest Ra Ta, who wanted to unify the spiritual teachings of the people. In about 1,200 readings on Egypt, he reveals the origin, purpose, and prophecies of the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx, ancient rulers in his own past life as the priest Ra Ta, who wanted to unify the spiritual teachings. Um, let's go read a book, buy a book, buy a book, buy a book, buy a book, more buy a book, buy a book, buy a book. Yep, I'm still going to apologize, guys. Buy a book, buy a book, buy a book, buy a book. Ah, basically, he, oh, come on. Are you going to do that? So anyway, if you want to deep dive into Edgar Cayce, you can go through this for weeks and weeks and weeks. And if you guys want to deep dive and pick a particular niche and deep dive properly into each particular niche, because there's more to it than this. Like, because just the medical stuff alone, he has he took out patents for medical devices that are, some of them are still in use today and very close. He create the violet wand therapy, light therapy. Um, Yeah, the violet ray. He advocated the use of the violet ray in almost 900 of his readings. And since the 1990s, under the name Violet Wand, uh, this was used for, let me see, this was used for, I think, some types of infections. I forget exactly what it, yeah, it was a unique medical appliance used during the early 20th century to discharge in electrotherapy, not electrocution therapy. Usually features a disruptive discharge coil with an interrupted with a high voltage, high frequency, low current to the human body for therapeutic purposes. Um, yeah, so there's come on. Oh, I don't want to do that. I want to do that. Yeah, that's basically what he invented. And I believe they used it a lot for jaundice. But the treatment, the things that he prescribed it for that worked. I would need to actually look this up. I would need to look up more about this. Um, Yeah, this is just somebody that happens to have one, and he's talking about, "Oh, it's a quack medical device," but at the time, what he was saying it was for. Come on. Okay, let me see if I can find out what was the violet ray used for. It was used to treat to treat rickets and cataracts. I believe, yeah, there was something I to do with this ray that apparently helped to slow down the formation of cataract and for skin conditions. Rheumatism, nervous conditions, acne, and baldness. Here's the thing, what's really interesting is that when there are certain types of light, like light therapy is a thing now. Like, people are starting to recognize different types of light, just different types of responses. So I don't think he was wrong. I don't think he was wrong, but I think it's like I don't think he was wrong, but I think he was limited in what he was able to do because one of the things that he complained about in his readings is that oh, this person has this condition, but the technology to cure it hasn't come up yet. So this is what we're going to do to treat him. Like he treated some people for diabetes with giving him special diets and stuff like that because insulin just wasn't readily available yet. So things like that. So that was a thing. But oh yeah, this is more of a business now. The Edgar Cayce, EdgarCayce.org is an organization that, and honestly, it's a massive library of everything that he's ever done. Um, and it is, you have to become a member to actually access it though. So that is not going to make it easy. But anyway, lots. Okay, there's so much to learn about this guy that this today's chat does not do it justice because there are entire books. He's like he mentions Atlantis and he mentions Egypt like thousands of times in his readings. He mentions various aspects of reincarnation thousands of times in his readings. The medical advice, okay, the medical advice he gave that gets confusing because a lot of the stuff that he would have, a lot of the stuff that he prescribed back then for a patient isn't stuff that like if somebody's got pneumonia, he's going to go do a castor oil pack, do this, do that, do this, do that because antibiotics weren't readily available. Now it's like go to the doctor and get penicillin, right? So a lot of his medical advice was excellent advice for his time, but is no longer relevant. And most of his readings focused on medical stuff, and it wasn't until later, after he started mentioning all this other stuff, that they started taking it seriously. And again, he would do all of his medical stuff first because he was there to help the people, and then set aside a little time, a little time, a little time. But he, yeah, I don't know. I'm fascinated by this guy. I really am. I wish I'd have. Now that I see how hard it was to actually get something that wasn't just buy a book. Yeah, yeah, they still recommend castor oil for a lot of things. A lot of things that naturopaths recommend are started off are evolutions of things that he recommended. Um, he prescribed almonds. Oh, if you have this going on, eat some almonds. If you have like he prescribed specific foods. He said that if you're going to drink coffee, you shouldn't have cream and sugar. You have black coffee. What did he say one time? Black coffee by itself is a food. Black coffee with milk and sugar in it is bad for you. It's like, well, wait a second, what? But no, he was okay. He was really, really interesting. He had an insanely high accuracy rate. Like people would go to him before they would go to their own doctors. Like really high accuracy rate. He gave very specific and detailed instructions on what to do, and the people that followed the instructions, for the most part, got better. And the people that didn't, they didn't get better. They didn't get. I mean, he would call them on it too. Like he did a reading. Then one time he said, "Okay, this guy's got to do this. This is going to get better." And then they contacted, "Okay, can we get a follow up reading?" He said, "They put it." He went into his friends. He's like, "Okay, now we're looking at this guy. Yeah, there's no point. He didn't follow my advice. He's going to be dead in a week. This is what's going on." And that's what exactly what happened. So this guy is like pick a topic and then see where he landed on it. His future predictions. He did a lot of future predictions. What is this? Yeah, like he talks about the continent and culture of Atlantis. Um, yeah, in the period then some 98,000 years before the entry of Ram into India, because he also had an identity as Ram. So he had plenty of lives where he was just a regular guy. He had a few lives where he was like important, right? Is this entirely what is this? 2 hours in, and I finally find this. Okay, let's start here. This is a lot of reading, man. Oh my god, a lot of reading. his naturopathic remedies really, really focused on eating right, the correct nutrition. Don't forget multivitamins weren't necessarily commonly available. So he was very clear, "Oh, you must do this to get this much of this thing into your body." He talked about different, like, like castor oil packs to draw out infection, things like that. Um, yeah, this is, I don't know if this is the whole thing or if this is part of it. This is, I don't have a date on this. It doesn't matter. Here's the cool thing. It does the dates on this doesn't matter, and I found it really interesting. Okay, Moira, I gotta go soon too, so that's fine. Yeah, we honestly we can discuss every topic of Edgar Cayce in a super chat, and I'm happy to just deep dive into this guy. Um, I don't really got a topic picked for next week. Um, but yeah, we can talk about some, we could actually look into his future predictions. Some of them are really interesting. And I can actually do some research for a change. Just, you know, like I said, I did, that was I've already done it like 85 times. I feel kind of bad for you guys listening to me babble, but yeah, better. Oh, hi, Gail. You're showing up just as everybody's saying goodbye and dropping off. We were just talking about Edgar Cayce today. We did a quick hit and run on a lot of different little things about him, and we discovered that when you look up Edgar Cayce, you find 40 to 50 links for books to buy before you start getting. Um, I don't know if this gets more involved, but here's another link that I just found. Drop that for you guys on the way out the door. Um, basically, I find it's really interesting. The Atlantis stuff, you kind of have to take it on faith, right? Because there's no proof. Okay, we can have our thoughts, ideas, and opinions on Atlantis, but there's no proof. And that is the truth. The truth is there's no proof. But when you look at his Egypt, when you look at the stuff that he had in Egypt, like I said, finding out that there was the possibility of going into the Sphinx was one thing, but finding proof of the way and finding they're actually excavating actual tunnels going under the pyramids and all that stuff now. It's like, oh man, this man was right all along, and we need to take him seriously. And he's been dead for 80 years. Looking at some of the older stuff about him, and then rereading some of that stuff from our modern lens, like rereading some of the stuff that he talks about the pyramids. Like when I was a kid reading this, I'm like, oh wow, he's there's a tunnel under the pyramid, and oh yeah, there's a giant chamber under the Sphinx. This is really cool. Wow, this is interesting. And then I'm sitting here like 40 years later, going, they've got something under the Sphinx, and they know it's there. They just haven't got to it yet. The Egyptian government doesn't want them to excavate because they don't. The Egyptian government does not want them to potentially damage. They don't want them going directly under because they don't want them to potentially damage it. If they find a tunnel and can work their way in, that's fine, but they do not want them to cutting through. They don't want them making a mess, right? But you look at it through the modern lens of hey, what happened? You look at it from the modern lens of what you know now about what's going on in the world and stuff like that, and you're like, what the fuck? Yeah, well, a lot of babbling and a lot of stopping and starting because I told myself I was going to look shit up on the fly and just have a lovely chit chat where nobody has to try too hard. Edgar Cayce, there is so much information about this guy, so much that I kept stumbling over. Yeah, it would mess with the entire. That's what the Egyptians are afraid of, right? But according to Edgar Cayce, there's a copy of the Akashic records, and I do think he means I don't know exactly. He worded himself very weird in his life in his readings. I do think he means an access point where anybody can access. Just like I can tell you about a book, you can't do anything about it unless you go to the library and take it out, right? So this is like physical, and whether that's going to be actual. I don't think we're talking actual books of the entire beginning to end of reality. I think we're talking about like a portal, a something. I don't know what that would be. I don't know if he ever described it. And be interesting to go deep dive. He gave, like, something like 50,000 readings in his life. Freaking crazy. But we were kinda deciding whether we wanted to deep dive into one particular topic of him or move on to another topic for now until we can have a chance to decide what it is that we wanna discuss. I would love discussing him in Egypt, Atlantis. Okay, discussing Cayce in Atlantis would be a lot of fun. He's provided a lot of information on that. Discussing Edgar Cayce in Egypt is more. There's more stuff. There's more stuff that actually exists in Egypt, so it'd be interesting. But Atlantis, Egypt, medical science, future predictions. Um, I mean, he was a very well-rounded psychic, and the funny thing is that his Christian beliefs, he was conflicted his whole life. His whole life, he was conflicted on whether or not he was doing the right thing by doing these things, which was hilarious. I gotta deal with this camera. I gotta figure it out. But I should get going now. Lisa's gonna be home soon. Don't forget, ask her about her hickey when you see her. But anyway, I'm gonna get going. I've got to I gotta get some cleanup done. I gotta get started on some stuff over there, get that going. And maybe comment below if you have any thoughts or ideas on what you would like to see for the next topic, what if you want to continue the education topic, then some thoughts and ideas on what you want to discuss. If you want to go completely off to left field, what you want to discuss, I can just show up and we can figure it out as we go. And I'm going to do a better job of paying attention. I don't want to have to like sit down and do 3 hours of research before doing a video, but I should have known. I should have spent 2 minutes looking this guy up, and I would have went, oh, I need to have a few minutes ready. I'll do a better job next time. But he is a really interesting guy. Amazing shit that comes out about him, and I'm going to go look up some more. Yeah, you know what? We didn't really touch on his future predictions. Let's maybe think about that. Edgar Cayce. Okay, you know what? Let's look up. Let's just make it a more general topic of looking up the famous psychics and their predictions for the future. Maybe we can see if we can find out what's similar and what's not so similar. I'll figure it out. I'll have a topic. I have a topic. I'll probably be doing some sewing next week on video too, just so I can hang out. Sort it out too. But anyway, I'm gonna get going. You guys have a great day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.